Hello everyone. So as you can tell, this is going to be quite a different haul and review video than you are used to seeing. Pretty much every video I've done, at least in recent months, has been a Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company sort of haul review, in-depth analysis, comparison, historical overview, something like that. But today I'm actually doing a Tart haul and in-depth sniff and review. I've never been one really to be interested in Tarts. I have purchased, I think before this order you see in front of you here, literally only two other companies before, and that would be the standard, number one Yankee Candle Company. Obviously their melts, and then of course, not of course, but then also a company. This is literally, I'm talking like it had to be almost 3 years ago at this point. Grumpy Girl Candle Company. They do soaps, they do scrubs, and they had some really interesting tarts, and they were sort of like the cups, as opposed to a tart or a clamshell like this. For someone who's not a big fan usually of tarts, I know a fair amount about them. A lot of the folks I subscribe to on YouTube are people who do primarily tart hauls, so I know about. I watch a lot of hauls and reviews and, weekly waxes and empties and things like that, or, project wax or destashes and things. At some point I'll have to go through sort of the whole list of everyone who I subscribe to and really enjoy, because it's not necessarily, I guess, what you might assume since it looks like I'm only into Bath & Body Works candles from the reviews that I do. And of course, the person who got me into this, Karen, was sent my way. She's a huge collector of tarts. She knows all of them, and so I've sniffed a lot of different companies when I visited her, from starting with Kim's Tarts, Candles by Victoria, Scent Shots, and Bathing Garden clamshells here, to Candles from the Keeping Room, Scent Sensationals, Better Homes and Gardens, and all of the many different Rose Girls, and the many different companies that do tarts, the vendors. So I feel like I know a decent amount about them, but I don't know a lot about sniffing them. I know that they all have their pink sugar blends, and they'll have their zucchini bread blends, and their Noels, and their this and that, and it's just a lot for me. It's kind of overwhelming. To me, a lot of it, I've always thought, has leaned a lot more heavily towards super sweet, sugary, bakery, ooey gooey kind of sense, which again, if you watch my channel, I'm not the biggest fan of. But there's room for everything out there. I'm not trying to sort of pick a new addiction here. I'm happy with most of the candles that I get, and I certainly have plenty that I've got to burn through or figure out something to do with. But this is sort of a fun side thing that they're interesting scents, and it's kind of just one-off quick burns. You don't necessarily have to love something. You try it, you don't like it, you don't buy it again. And the Bathing Garden, I've been sort of the most impressed by, because they seem to have Shannon, the girl who runs it, or I suppose owns the vendor, the company, has always had truly the most unique blends. A lot of people love them because they have cute things in them, or little inserts in the wax and all that, and that's all wonderful. But to me, of course, it comes down to the smell. I think clamshells are nice because they are so easy to stack and organize. It's not necessarily messy bags with hearts or puppies or cupcakes or whatever it may be. It's a little bit more clean, simple, and something that I lean towards. But also her scents have been so interesting. What I've smelled with Karen over the years, she's had a ton of sort of aromatherapy scents and tea blends and mints and sort of spa items, and just such a wide range. And really, not to knock other vendors, because again, I don't know them all that well, but some of them seem to stick a little bit more with the basics, as far as a basic eucalyptus spearmint, or a basic spun sugar, or a basic Fruit Loops, or a basic, some of the ones where I think it gets crazy is when you've got things like a vanilla bean Noel dupe, but it's vanilla bean Noel, spun sugar, cotton candy, cheesecake, swirl, macaroon surprise, and it's just like enough, too much already. Keep it simple, stupid, is what it comes down to for me. Again, but I like complex things, but when it just gets too overloaded with things that I'm like, it's too much sweetness, it's too much whatever, it's just too much for me. But there are some really sort of complex, intricate, fascinating blends that I think are very unique to the Bathing Garden, that, smelling with Karen, I was just always really impressed by the type of blends that Shannon would come up with. They weren't really just, one company or one vendor or 5 vendors buying what seems to me like, once getting their oils from 1 or 2 suppliers and just kind of all doing the same thing in different forms. This just really blew me away. It's very, very unique, and I love things that are unique and different, obviously. Or maybe not, obviously. But so the Bathing Garden used to be on Etsy, and she had her own storefront website, and then she I'm not sure of the exact history. I think she went away for a while, or she had a Facebook group. Right now, recently, at least from what I have heard from Karen, she's only been doing restocks, which, again, there's so much lingo and sort of inside baseball to the way that Tart vendors run, and, turnaround time and restocks and opening for 4 minutes for the next, in the next 3 months. So they're only selling things for 12 minutes for the entire year, but then they're backed up and you won't get your stuff for 2 months. It's just really crazy stuff. But it's how, vendors in the wax world works for folks. When you're not buying a candle in the store. So I get that. But so the Bathing Garden has been doing restocks, and Karen forwarded me some of the information from one of the Facebook groups and said, check these out. And I figured, they're cheap enough, at $3.50 a piece, to be able to get some really unique scents. Try them out. If you don't like them, they're 6 cubes. You burn them a few times and then you get rid of them, or you send them away, or you give them, or you do trades with someone, and then that's it. You're not committing to a nearly 15 ounce candle for $8, $9, $10, $12. So kind of easy, fun, unique, and something different. So I figured, here we are 6 minutes in, now we're at the story, I figured I'd give it a try. So my first order here I've got, it was just an order of 6 tarts. There were only, I'm not sure exactly, I want to say something like 12 in the restock. It was from January 5th for those who are into the restocks. It was the January 5th restock, and she also does sugar scrubs, which I didn't get, but there were about, I think, maybe 11 different tarts to choose from, so I chose 6, and then she always gives 1 full-size product, which is super incredibly generous. With all of her orders, she includes a surprise there, which is nice. So I will go through the 6 that I purchased, then the 7th free sample, tell you what I think, tell you what the notes are, and we'll go from there and tell me what you guys think. If you like this kind of video, if you want to see more of things like these, if you want me to stick just to the candles, Bath & Body Works, and we'll see where it goes from there. So let's start first with, in the order that I sniffed them, so that's what I have them in my head. First up is Peppermint Fluff. So let's see, I hope we've got, the lighting is not fantastic here. I'm going to try to get some focus. So that's Peppermint Fluff. The notes on this are Marshmallow Fluff is blended with sweet peppermint. So it can't get more simple than that, right? So I will open this here. I'm actually going to try to take these out of the package, because I feel like one thing with tarts is that sometimes you need to smell the bottom layer, because they sometimes will be a top layer and a bottom layer. So this one here, this is a white wax with like little beads or little chunks of green wax on it. I'd be fine if they were plain, but it's an extra little bit of flair, and it's pretty. Now they must have been cold. Some of them sort of broke and shattered a bit. So I'll just smell this up close here. I'll sniff it on my nose. Oh, it's even falling apart here. Again, no fault of Shannon's, but it's really cold out with that polar vortex. Now this reminds me of something. I figured, again, Marshmallow Fluff with sweet peppermint. It actually does not remind me of the Marshmallow Peppermint, I think it was, candle from 2 years ago at Bath & Body Works. I thought that's what it would be like. The peppermint is a little artificial smelling to me, or almost like too kind of medicinal in a way. It's not like a sweet light peppermint. And while there is sweetness, it's more of a sweet vanilla as opposed to a true Marshmallow Fluff. Like, to me, I thought it'd be a little bit more creamy or warm or more kind of whipped feeling. I don't necessarily, but again, I don't know what marshmallow or fluff is supposed to smell like in wax tarts. It's sort of a different world of scent notes, so that could just be my nose not being adjusted to what the kind of standards are for this. So I don't dislike it. It may burn or melt, new world. It may melt differently and kind of come off a little more sweet, or kind of, again, round in my head is how I have it. It reminds me almost of like some sort of Easter candy. I feel like, I don't know if it's like a mint kind of jelly bean, or some sort of weird candy that's only around at Easter. Not Peeps, but something that it reminds me a little bit of. So, not my ultimate favorite, but I like it. It's good enough. Then move on to Teaberry Bubblegum. Now, Teaberry, I wish I should have done some research to see exactly what Teaberry was originally made of. It was stick gum, the way that chewing gum, the way that Double Mint and all the Wrigley's and Juicy Fruit and all of those gums are. And it was made out of Teaberry. And I think Teaberry it's either like an oil or it's from some sort of plant or fruit or something that is a very specific scent, especially within Teaberry gum. So this isn't, if you know Teaberry gum and you've tasted it, it's a candy gum flavor that is, you cannot duplicate it. If you haven't tasted that, you've never tasted anything like it. So Teaberry Bubblegum is not a berry scented tea in bubblegum or a mix of bubblegum, tea, and berries. Teaberry is a specific kind of minty scent, basically. So smelling this, now this one, sorry, let's show you guys. Again, it's a hot pink wax with, I guess those are crumbles of wax. I'm not sure if they're scented or not, with some glitter on top. Now, opening this, I'm a good foot away from the wax. I can already smell it, which is always a good sign. I'd rather something be super strong than weak. Now, if I think this is one piece, I can pull it out. It's just, there's something really satisfying about these. It's just, I don't know. To be able to break off a couple of chunks there and throw it in a warmer it's just very satisfying. Whew, now that is strong. Now the notes on this one are supposed to be teaberry, spearmint, wintergreen, vanilla, and sweet sticky bubblegum. So there are a lot of mints in there without it being overly effervescent. So you've got spearmint, wintergreen, teaberry, which is sort of a minty note, even though it doesn't sound like it. There's no like tea, there's no berry really. Mixed with, of course, vanilla and then sweet sticky bubblegum. So a little bit like your Bazooka Joe, but almost you've had, maybe it's double bubble. Some bubblegums, a true pink bubblegum, lean a little bit more minty than just like kind of like the bubble is just watermelon. More of the old classic pink bubblegums have that little hint of a weird mint to them, which this absolutely has. You do get the standard bubblegum note, of course with vanilla, and it really smells just like teaberry gum, chewing gum, which if you can go to like an old candy store, I'm sure they'll have it. It's sort of like the Choward's violet candies, kind of like old world candies from probably like turn of the century in 1920s or something. The weird thing is with this, you also get a note, maybe it's the color, maybe it's the mint, almost like the closest thing I could say this is similar to is a Pepto-Bismol, which most people who wants a Pepto-Bismol smelling tart, but there's a good part of it that is kind of like a sweet candy Pepto-Bismol. Is kind of, I think, the easiest way to describe teaberry in a basic way without getting into the complexities of it. Really interesting. This is sort of the one that put me over the top to saying, well, now's the time to try Bathing Garden. I've got it. There's a teaberry bubblegum. I've got to go for it. Because I have the bubblegum candle for the test scent from Bath & Body Works, but this is just totally different. Then we move along. Next up here, we've got Almond Macaroon Cheesecake. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to be Macaroon or Macaron. Not really sure. Macarons are made from almonds. Maybe this is a coconut macaroon. Not really sure what she was going for, but it says here, the richest cheesecake is blended with my favorite macaroon cookies. So, now again, I usually don't like cheesecakes, but I visited Karen over the holidays, and she was melting, I'll have to ask her, I don't know, it might have been candles from the keeping room, not really sure. Some sort of like cherry cheesecake, and it didn't, or cinnamon cheesecake. It didn't smell like cheesecake to me. It just was like the most ultimate delicious bakery that again made me say, well, I've got to try Tarts. So almond macaroon cheesecake. This is one of those really pretty double layers. You've got white on top, pink on the bottom. Now I don't know, maybe wax fanatics, Tart divas and divos out there can tell me if it is like an almond macaroon cheesecake, is the top layer literally a different scent than the bottom layer? So is it like the almond on top and the macaroon on the bottom, or is this just the same oils blended but just in two different colored waxes? I'm kind of curious about that. Because if it's the same one, I'd rather not take it out, because this one actually is kind of shattered into a lot of pieces. Again, polar vortex was super cold. I think when it was on, the USPS truck, it just got bounced around and this shattered. So I can't really take this one out, so I'm going to sniff it here. Oh, now that I've had this for a day and it's warmed up and settling, I love this even more than I did before. Reminds me a bit of the aromatherapy from Bath & Body Works, 2 years ago, I think, at this point. The, not warm milk and honey, not nighttime tea, what in the heck? It was it vanilla cinnamon? Actually, you know what? Pause for 1 second. I actually have it right over here. I'm going to grab it. I'm coming. Okay, vanilla cinnamon. It was aromatherapy sleep. I actually had this in my guest bath. And it was cinnamon, essential oils, and nutmeg and cinnamon, even though it's called vanilla cinnamon. And smelling that, it's not as creamy as that, but it's got sort of like a creamy almond, I guess. And this is an almond where it's one of those almonds that's so pure, like an almond essential oil or almond extract, that it leans towards almost a cherry scent, which I actually really like. I kind of love all things almond, I'm realizing. And even more so, you definitely get the creaminess, almost like a milkiness as opposed to like a really sugary fake whipped cheesecake. But almost more, it reminds me of like an old cookie that I used to eat when I was younger. I can't remember, like sort of like a, I don't want to say cheap cookie, but like a, from a bakery that's like a grocery store bakery that's kind of mass-produced baked goods, along with, let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, you really get a true graham cracker crust in this, which is interesting too, because so many bakery notes, especially Bath & Body Works, they say there's crust, whatever, you really don't get it. In this, it is like a cherry almond, creamy, and a true buttery graham cracker crust, which is, again, just really impresses me. Then we move on to Mulberry Circus. Now this is said to be sweet mulberry, blue raspberry, kettle corn, and fluffy bunches of spun sugar. So I'm assuming they're talking cotton candy. So cotton candy, kettle corn, which is a sugary popcorn, plus mulberry and blue raspberries. There's a lot going on there. I thought I might like it. I was like, well, you know what? If I'm going for the sweets, let me go all out and get something that is like berries and kettle corn and cotton candy and spun sugar and all this sweetness that you don't necessarily see much in the Bath & Body Works candles. And it's got like sprinkles and glittery stars all over it, and it's this purple wax. And I can't stand this. I don't like this tart. I saw another, I looked at Bathing Garden Halls earlier today, and someone else mentioned that mulberry scents are sometimes too strong. That person really liked, I forget who it was, I'm sorry, not someone I had subscribed to originally. She said that she liked this because it was more of a toned down mulberry. Maybe I don't like mulberry. It's so intense. It's almost got like a... I don't really get the kettle corn or the cotton candy. There's sweetness, but that mulberry, and I guess the blue raspberry, it's like the acid blue raspberry, like in the early 90s when every raspberry scent was like blue raspberry, blue raz with 2 Z's and like turns your tongue bright electric blue, and just a little too much is what this is. Sorry I keep taking it away a bit. And the mulberry is like, this is going to sound maybe gross, but I don't mean it to be gross. A little bit like of like a cat pee kind of intensity. Now, not that, I don't have cats, but I grew up with cats. People know what cat pee smells like, even if you have a clean house with a cat. When you clean a litter box, even if it's just one pee, you know what cat pee smells like, so let's be real. And a lot of wine, Sauvignon Blanc, green wine, more of a green flavoring, not green flavoring, but like, a green note to Sauvignon Blanc wines, they often actually describe as cat urine. And a little bit of that scent, that weird note, is actually a good thing in a good Sauvignon Blanc wine. So it's not always, I'm not saying it's like a bad thing, I'm not saying, oh my gosh, it smells like cat piss, it's disgusting. But sort of it hits that part of your nose where it's like, ooh, there's a sharpness in there that, in this case, I don't like. If it was a Sauvignon Blanc wine, maybe I'd like it. But I don't like that. That one will be a trade or, trade with Karen or something like that. Then we've got, sorry, I know it's a long video here, caramel velvet coffee cake, ground coffee beans, steaming espresso, gooey caramel, and fluffy cake bites. Now, you guys, don't say that don't ever tell me that I hate on the sweeties, the ooey gooey bakeries, because I am venturing out here. I'm trying, right? Now, I love espresso bar, which really is just a pure, espresso coffee with a little hint of milk. I love that. And I was like, well, you know what? Maybe it would be good to get a caramel velvet coffee cake. Try something. Maybe it won't be too ooey gooey or too caramel. I don't like, like the sweet, salty caramel kind of Bath & Body Works, but maybe it'll be different than that for, say, a Saturday morning if I want to melt something for 2 hours and toss the wax pool in the trash. Now this, again, we're going for coffee beans, steaming espresso, gooey caramel, and fluffy cake bites. That's a lot of claims here, and it's really, gosh, we get it open, my goodness. A lot of really pretty mess where it looks like, you've got little beads and little, what looks like basically coffee grounds and chunks of, like crumb cake kind of. So it's, again, the attention to detail is just so impressive with these tarts. Now sipping it, I'm getting more of sort of the caramel or the cake note than I did the first time I smelled it. When I first smelled it, it really, to me, just smelled similar. Actually, perfect layout here. I've got an espresso bar candle right here that I can compare it to. It's been burned once, so it's kind of a little different. Espresso bar is kind of pure. When I first reviewed that, and I still say, it kind of reminds me of like, if you go to, then I feel like this is more of a thing in the 1990s where like, but it was like a mix of like a candy store, but they also sold flavored coffee, and the walls were just lined with coffee beans, and they grind it for you there. This is before everyone had, you know, coffee grinds at home or Keurigs, especially in, you know, the past decade. But like sort of that really intense, almost artificially flavored coffee bean smell I get from this, which you also get in the espresso bar. I always said it smelled like a place that sells coffee. I'm getting this on the floor. My dog is gonna have a field day. And I do get that with kind of like a bitterness, which I didn't really love. It's not like a sweet coffee. It's for Starbucks fans or certainly Frappuccino fans. This is not the one for you. It's a little bit of like a sourness to it. I feel like it's gonna be something to really open up when I burn it, when I melt it. I get a little bit more of the cake bites in it now than I did before. I don't really get caramel. I get ground coffee beans, more like a steaming espresso. So a bit of a bitterness to this. Not so much the coffee cake, but again, I feel like it could end up different when I melt it. So to me, I still like espresso bar better. Finally get that in the shot there. It's just more pure, but again, caramel velvet coffee cake is not bad. It's not offensive in any way. Then, let's see, what have we missed here? We've gotten these three, these two, Winter Palace, finally. This one I was really excited about. Let's take a look at it. Winter Palace. It says French lavender, sign me up, winter berries, vanilla, pomegranate, strawberries, icy peppermint, and hints of tea and pink sugar, complex and addicting. Well, right there, this is going to be a tart that you're not going to be able to smell anywhere else. This is, you know, a Bathing Garden exclusive. When you've got that much going on, this is clearly something that she hand blended and, you know, put her energy into, which just impresses me. So really pretty again, a light icy blue. Got the little inlay, whatever they call that, with a little snowflake. I don't find these necessary, but they're a cute little addition. They make it stand out from the rest. So. It's a nice little add-on. Now, smelling this, it's wild. There's a lot going on in there. Like you said, complex and addicting. Let me see if I can lay it there so you guys can see it, and I'll just sniff the holder. It's not too intense with mint, which is good, because you don't want it to be. There's lavender, and astringent lavender. I get a sweetness that I suppose I could do without the strawberries. I don't like strawberry scents usually. Pomegranate's a nice winter fruit. That's cool. A winter berry. The notes make it sound like you know, like a signature collection Bath and Body Works item, but it's better than that. It's different than that. The lavender really rules this more than the pomegranate and the strawberries. So you've got a little bit of berry, lavender, again the mint. Tea and pink sugar. I am a pink sugar virgin. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to smell like. I know it's like, I don't think it's necessarily sweet. I think it's more of like a perfumey scent. Correct me if I'm wrong. I really don't know. I know there's pink and blue sugars. Again, I'm a Tart 101 here. Tea may be like an herbal tea, but like the tiniest bits. This is primarily lavender, dark fruits, and peppermint, I'm going to say. And it's just really, it is so complex. I'm not sure what mood I'd be in to burn this, because it's not mint. The mint doesn't rule, which is impressive, because usually when you have a mint note, it's going to kind of take over. This mint reminds me a tiny bit of the sweetness of the Wild Mint Hardworking Hand Cream from Bath & Body Works that was out this year, if anyone's familiar, where it was supposed to be wild mint, but it had more of like a melon tinge to it. This is a sweet mint in that sense. Sweet, but that lavender doesn't let it get too sugary sweet. It really brings out astringency of that. So really, really interesting. Not necessarily something that I would purchase again or hoard a bunch of them, but I really appreciate the uniqueness and complexity of it. And the free pack-in was Pirate Punch, which it wasn't part of the restock, so it's really hard to find notes on this. I Googled it, and I found a few folks that said tropical fruits. Someone said pina colada, pineapple. Pirate Punch sort of makes sense. It's a green color. There's some beads on top. Hard to get a sniff on this to say exactly what it is. I don't really get much of a pineapple. Maybe like a creamy sort of tropical fruit, like a guava, but this is not juicy. This is, the way it looks, it is creamy. It almost reminds me of like a milk and honey oatmeal kind of creaminess. But I think it could be like a really muted, creamy coconut. Some other people have reviewed it and they've said it's more fruity. I don't know what's wrong with my nose. I don't get much fruit on it. It's super light. Again, I think this is one I have to melt a couple of to really know what it is. But I get sort of a creamy coconut. Kind of forgettable. It's not one I would purchase, but I super, super appreciate it as a free item. Can't beat that. So again, almost 30-minute video for 7 tarts. That's, you know, other folks run through 30 tarts in 20 minutes, but sorry, this is, I'm in depth. It's my first one, so forgive me. I will do probably another haul of Bathing Garden because, again, can't really pass up when it's like you have 5 days, buy it and it's gone. Kind of hard not to suck up and grab some fun ones. I actually don't have a tart warmer right now. I ordered one, so I should be getting it the next day or two, so I can update you maybe on Facebook with my afterthoughts after I've burned some or melted some of these. If you have any questions, hit me below. Or also check out facebook.com/TouchTheFireTwice. We'll continue the conversation there. And then coming soon, for any of my regular viewers, you see here I've got the Coastal Collection and some other candles here. I promise you I will have those reviews up in the next couple of days. And until next time, take care.